Matthew 6, verse 1 to 4, KJV. Take heed that ye do not your alms before men, to be seen of them. Otherwise ye have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. Therefore, when thou doest thine alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret himself shall reward thee openly. The Johnson family had been struggling for months. Ever since David, the father, lost his second job, finances had been tighter than ever. Their old sedan had broken down weeks ago, and with rent, groceries, and bills stacking up, there simply wasn't anything left to fix it. It sat in their driveway, collecting dust, a constant reminder of their hardship. Their neighbor, Mr. Thompson, had noticed. Every morning, he saw David walking his kids to the bus stop instead of driving them. He saw Lisa, David's wife, trying to arrange rides to work with coworkers, and he could sense the quiet frustration in their eyes. He never said anything, but he understood. He had been there once too. One evening, as David sat on his porch looking at the broken car with a sigh, a truck pulled up in front of his house. A mechanic in a grease-stained uniform stepped out and smiled. Got a call about a car that needs fixing, the mechanic said, nodding toward the sedan. David frowned in confusion. I think you have the wrong house. We haven't called anyone. The mechanic shook his head. Nope, right place. Everything's covered. Someone already paid for you. David's heart skipped a beat. But who? The mechanic just smiled. Just someone who cares. As the mechanic got to work, replacing a worn-out alternator and tuning up the engine, David stepped back, overwhelmed. He glanced toward Mr. Thompson's house and for the first time noticed him sitting on his own porch, reading the newspaper, a small smile tugging at the corner of his lips. David felt a lump in his throat. He didn't need to ask. He knew. The car roared back to life a little while later. The mechanic packed up his tools and gave David a firm handshake. You're good to go. David ran his hand over the hood of the car, shaking his head in amazement. I don't even know how to say thank you. The mechanic simply smiled. Sometimes, the best way to say thanks is to do the same for someone else when you get the chance. That night, David sat at the dinner table with his family, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Their hardship wasn't over, but this act of kindness reminded him that they weren't alone. And one day, when he had the chance, he would pay it forward, just as someone had done for him. Matthew 6, 1 to 4 teaches the importance of humility and sincerity in giving. Jesus warns against performing acts of charity for the sake of public recognition, emphasizing that true generosity seeks God's approval rather than human praise. When people give solely to be admired by others, their reward is limited to the acknowledgement they receive, rather than a blessing from God. Jesus speaks against the hypocrisy of those who make a public spectacle of their giving, comparing them to those who sound a trumpet to announce their generosity. This imagery suggests that some people give not out of true compassion, but as a way to boost their reputation. Instead, Jesus encourages his followers to give in a way that is so discreet and selfless that even their left hand does not know what their right hand is doing. This metaphor highlights the idea that acts of kindness should be natural and not done for personal recognition. God, who sees what is done in secret, will reward those who give with a sincere heart. The passage ultimately teaches that true generosity is about serving others quietly and trusting that God, rather than people, will honor and bless such actions.